I'm going to pick up some pieces from night before last and try and get you to see something else about it. If I can never arrange to make up a model, or maybe I can have it done, one of these people with some computer art to even get us a representation, so I don't have to say things like expand, well, I don't have to say things like increase, or to make you look up, or make you look down, and talk about basements and penthouses, because this goes in other directions. One thing that does come to mind, somebody can take the idea of the picture, at least if we made it a 4D Klein bottle. Does everyone know what that is? Like it's kind of a loftier attempt at a Mobius strip. That fictitious, well, it's not even fictitious, they can make one, a bottle with no edges, no inside, no outside. If you could take that, whatever that would be, and push it even into another dimension, like a 4D Klein bottle, that's where I'm trying to point you toward tonight. And let me pick up one of the things that I was using night before last. I was pointing out about people being serious in unseemly ways, and I picked out an example that gets very close to people, a lot of people, probably as much or more so than religion, and that was that me saying that the feelings, the expressed ideas people have about the importance of children, the next generation, and etc. I did everything from hint to some of you probably thought I was blatantly, even though I said I wasn't, making some kind of fun or saying that's all a bunch of malarkey. Now I give you, how many hours in 2 days? I gave you 2 days to ponder that. Anybody who cared to ponder it, to worry about it, or anybody really took it personally, you could have quit and decided, enough's enough. Bad enough to pick on God, but to pick on little children. Of course, if you were actually a good religious person, you'd say, well, hey, it's the same thing. Here, it's closer to something. Regarding my comments about religion and many other things, or about children, the idea of the kind of very serious nexus there should be between every individual and their progeny, or what should be their children, the next generations, and me pointing out that there is no, in those kind of apparently serious, life-supporting acts and beliefs, that with ordinary people, they lack any knowledge of why it might be serious, how they should be serious about it, and if that is one of the areas that should be serious. But now, rather than talk about the specifics, here is what it amounts to. I'll make it as simple as I can for at least October. Is that you should not be accepting genetic generalities as being your own possible individual interest. Now, one way that I would like for some of you, I hope that some of you will get a glimpse of why this is almost a kind of 4D Klein bottle with no edges, is that everyone at the ordinary level takes the common. Now, by common, I mean that it affects everybody to some degree. And I mean it in the pejorative sense. If we get down to us, it's common, but it's common in a non-pejorative sense. The common genetic generalities that affect everyone. The way in which I was saying this is almost, but it is a good example, if you can see it, of a kind of intellectual topology or a kind of 4D Klein bottle, because I was going to point out to you that by taking the common genetic generalities as being some sort of personal interest you have, some kind of personal intelligence on your part, by doing so is what puts you in the position of thinking and feeling that you're at the center of everything. Now, why this is strange, think about it a second. Try your best to think. It would seem that this would do otherwise, just the opposite. That if a person, Mr. or Ms. X, if they were driven solely by these common genetic generalities, that they were just middle class personified, They're just a walking cliche. They are Mr. and Ms. Planet Earth. Just common as dirt and everything that goes with it. All right, if that was their sole driving force, would it not seem that that would keep them from feeling that they were at the center of everything? It should be, you would think at first, just using ordinary city intelligence, that this would bring about a feeling that I am common. I am a kind of cosmic dust. I am a kind of universal background noise, and I'm nothing exceptional. But no. No, no, no. In 3D land, it do just the opposite. Because people take these common genetic generalities, and being blind and, if I may say so, rather stupid, that is ordinary, they take these feelings as being singular with them. Oh, they know that other people have kids, but they don't feel about children the way I do. Oh, sure, I know some other people go to church. Now I know that these non-Christians have their own religion. I know that non-Muslims claim to have some kind of God, but they don't have my God. By being driven solely, almost exclusively, give you room to move around, by the common genetic generalities, and by taking them as you're supposed to, by taking them as being your individual voice, your personal inclinations and interests, motivations, in any synonym that you can come up with that fits into my description, into that field. By doing so, you feel as though you are at the center of everything that you think, which is not, I'll tell you again, for those of you first riding by here, this is not an attack on some form of so-called egoism. It's not that. It's got nothing to do with what ordinary people call being egotistical. It has to do with your thinking mechanism, which is the heart of all of this, that your thinking mechanism, some of you would probably still want to call it your consciousness of life, you are always at the center, not in some bombastic, ordinary, egotistical way, but you're at the center of it, such as if somebody says, oh, look at that pretty dog, and you're going to make a comment on a dog, on dogs in general, on the universe of dogs, and what do you say? I love dogs. Does anybody hear it? Let's discuss dogs. All right, who wants to join in? Oh, I do. Well, what do you have to contribute? Well, first off, let me say I love dogs. I have my own dog. I've had dogs all my life. I love dogs, and I love to meet people who want to discuss dogs. I love being here with you people if you like to discuss dogs. Now, that's all right in the city, but do you hear me? We're not discussing dogs. That's like a good old joke of a good Hollywood star that meets somebody, is talking to some girl, and he goes on for 2 or 3 hours about everything he's been doing, all the parts he's had, all the parts he's missed, and all that. You know, what he was in most recently. He says, but enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think of me? It's not quite that crude, because it's around the corner from that. But it's around the corner that there is a difference in saying, there's a difference in saying, in the projection of let's talk about dogs. And you say, all right, I've got something to say about dogs. What do you have to say about dogs? First off, I love dogs. I want that understood. I love dogs. I love dogs. We could be talking about religion, children, family, morality, America, Russia, anywhere, anything. Are we discussing dogs? Are you discussing dogs to yourself if you're just walking along? And there's a cute little fellow laying over there in the bushes peeking at you, and you say to yourself, geez, I love dogs. Such as you made a comment on something. You made a comment on your wiring system. You made a comment on this pinhole in the universe through which some energy smooshes out. That's technical talk. It comes out, and it comes out, and it comes out through you saying, all right, I'm interested in religion. Let's see, what do I think about religion? Do you hear it? By accepting the common genetic generalities that go through everybody, Comes out in different languages, comes out with slight variations. Sometimes it can come out with apparently large variations from place to place, and especially from time to time. But there are common genetic generalities. You may not think so that they're all that common, but that which the higher end of the nervous system, human intelligence running the tongue, describes as being an individual's great love and respect for the family, their great love for children, their concern about future generations. Everybody has that. And no matter what they're worshiping, whether it be Allah or frogs, there's a common genetic generality that oozes out of the human mouth that wants to worship, that says that there is something higher than the worshiper, which of course once you see it is a real safe bet. It does not prove any intelligence upon the speaker's part. It's just a safe bet. But all the things that you may take to be at least singular to you, and if not singular to you, you take it as being unique to some group of which you're a part, or of which you can, some group you can observe. And it's not true. It's called Jehovah over here, it's called God over here, it's called Allah over here. It's called family in English, and I don't know what it's called in Spanish, I don't know what it's called in Albanian, and it's the same thing. But by taking these common genetic generalities as being an individual indication of your intelligence, of your interest, of your insights, for you taking it in any way personally, you are back into, hey, let's discuss dogs. All right, I love dogs. Now what a witty observation. How piercing. How right to the point. I love. Enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think about what I just said? That's it. There is no escape if you take the genetic generalities, the noise, the true cosmic dust, the true universal background noise. And you're supposed to do this now. I'm just pointing out the obvious. Is look in all of you, the feeling somewhere along the line that I should have children. There's somewhere along the line that I should be back in the temple. I should be back at church. I should be somewhere paying homage to God, praying that it's there. But it is not personal. It is not individual. It's got nothing to do with you if you belong in this. It's not right or wrong. It's not even worth me saying it's not right or wrong, but I did. It's not true or false. And it's not up to the level of being either true or false. Is what's weird. It takes a higher level for something to be true or false. And anything that you know at the ordinary level is not up to that level. It's normally struggling with the level where intelligence is spelled, you remember? You remember that. Spell with the E where the I went. Although I was using specifics, examples of religion, and apparent, the drive, I say apparent, is quite real. Part of the sexual drive, the part of the needs for life, for man, for the race of man to continue, and for people to feel as though I should have children. Then it seems to be just beyond any kind of discussion. There may be some discussion that people think they have of, I don't know if I can afford children now, I don't know what's the right time, am I too young, am I too old? They never say, am I too dumb, but that's another story. But the feeling, people do not even question the feeling. And at the ordinary level, they're not supposed to. They're not supposed to go around questioning the feeling, and not enough people get pregnant and have children. Then we'd all be in trouble. Or we would have been in trouble. But for you individually to be involved with this, just because there is a feeling you have, and just because it is natural, does not mean that it has any particular pertinence to you if you're going to do this. That is what, at the ordinary level, that people could hear such as this, and it almost drive them to distraction, if not drive them to desire for violence. It does not mean that the feeling is right or wrong, good or evil, illusionary or real, which are all the same thing. The problem with attempting to do this is to take the common genetic generalities that affect everyone. Affect everyone. It's as common as breathing, it's as common as having skin. If you're alive, you got skin. If you're alive, you're breathing. And if you're alive, you experience the same common genetic generalities as everyone else does. And everyone at the city level, everyone at the ordinary level of intelligence takes these, even though they're aware of the fact that they're surrounded by other people claiming they're worshiping God. They're surrounded by other people that's got children. Just look at you. You don't have to look at other examples. The feeling in you that what you think is the way it finally comes out. The genetic generalities come out as thought. What you think about any particular subject to you is individual. To you it is personal. I have pointed out the real obvious times two, that not only can no one tell me what they're going to say next, no one can tell me why they think what they think. Nobody can tell me why they say what they say. And if you try to question that thing in you that is saying it and thinking it, I can really come up with intelligent answers like, just because. And if it's on a real good day, it might say, well, I say it because it's true. I know 6-year-old kids that can do that. That do that. Yeah, but there's a difference. A 6-year-old kid saying that and a 36-year-old kid, right? Yeah. There really is. One of them's unseemly. The other one is cute. You guess which one. I guess it may be a matter of taste. Since people like the possibility of being part of a live example, a living example, I've got one for you. To take us a side step to the side. And this actually happened. That's the important thing. This really happened. Famous comedians always do, or used to always do that. Does it work? What's the effect? All right, this actually happened. The other night, as I pulled up to our meeting place here, I noticed that the lights were not on. And I expressed a certain amount, anything ranging from a question to a certain amount of curiosity, passionate curiosity as to why there are all you people, some of you, standing out front, standing around, milling around, looking up, and no one seemed to notice that it was already getting dark, and all these fine lights we had on the sign were weren't on. In my kind and considerate way, and I questioned several people about why the lights weren't on. And I immediately received a very kind and considerate response from more than several people that they weren't on because the lights are on the timer. Now, let me see if I can pull in something that I talked about recently and make you see that it is connected with something else I just got through talking about. The need for people to feel, to apparently establish a kind of insulation between them and between what seems to be not them. In this case, why aren't the lights on? Well, they're on a timer. And of course, the rest of it I didn't say, that I'm supposed to be intelligent enough to understand when they say, well, they're on a timer. That the timer is not set to go on yet. So, whose fault is it? It's the timer's fault. As life has apparently progressed along this 3D line of time, there is ever increasing the attempt for people to now use not just some of the institutions and each other, but now to more and more to attempt to use machines, slice technology itself, but specifically machines, as a kind of insulation between them and responsibility. Not the responsibility, crudely, of getting lights turned on, the responsibility of what? I'm glad you asked. The responsibility for thinking. We'll assume that everyone's standing around out there. They at least answered me. And I said, why the hell aren't the lights on? They knew the lights were on the timer. And once I pointed out, they also were then aware, I assume they were, that they thought something about the seasons, what do you call it, change, and the time that it gets dark changes. Therefore, the timer that was set, that was just right, or acceptably so, at least I didn't say anything, a month ago, is now what? It's behind. But hell, it ain't my fault, is it? Now, we're not talking psychology here, remember. We are talking the need for people to insulate themselves. And I'm going to try and push you closer to the harsh something or other. Don't call it reality. Don't call it that. The harsh something or other connected to this. Don't even think reality. Don't. Do not any of you get just a fleeting glimpse of the beauty of this. Let me repeat one more time. It's not an attack on people, on individuals here. It is not some comment that people are so dumb that they'll look for any rationalization that, hey, it's not my fault. That happens in life, and you can hear it that way, but that's child's play. You were doing that, you could even see that. You would even accuse other people of that long before you met me, if you're just averagely dumb, I mean intelligent. You got to go around the corner from that. It is beautiful. It is not, quote, rationalization. A good revolutionist should, at least for the time being, just strike that word from your vocabulary, because there is no such thing as rationalization the way the dictionary describes it. The way the dictionary describes it is a cheap rationalization for the fact that the dictionary don't know what rationalization means. Now that's it, but I don't, that's too complicated, I'm sure. It's not rationalization. There's no such thing as rationalization. It's just action misnamed. There is an attempted insulation which works with ordinary people. And in this case, it's a prime example of a piece of machinery. It is not a cheap rationalization I'm pointing out. The people that responded, and don't worry about the people, you would have done the same thing. If you'd had any knowledge that they were on a timer, and if I'd really looked at you and went, God damn it, why aren't they on? And looked like I was going to hold you responsible, I bet somebody would even try to guess for a second, wait a minute, I bet they come on automatically. What do you call it, a timer or something? It's not set right. And then, of course, I could, in my genteel fashion, said, I didn't ask you whether it was set right. I asked why the lights are not on. But notice that's not the way things flow in life. Did I say, why aren't the lights on? Nobody told me why the lights weren't on. They didn't tell themselves why the lights were on. They told themselves why they weren't responsible. Again, I tell you, this is not a comment on rationalization, because there is no such thing. The comment is responsibility. The responsibility is to think. Put it better. Now, since I've put it that way twice for you, the responsibility that everyone is attempting to insulate themselves from is to be intelligent. That's the whole reason people attempt to insulate themselves. Now we'll get closer to the harsh whatever it is, not reality, don't. People, all people, seek to insulate themselves through such matters as this for a very specific reason that no one knows about. Now I'm fixing to let the bag out of the cat. I refuse to deal in just ordinary cliches. I try to. There is a reason that people attempt to insulate themselves from the responsibility, not of turning on lights, not that I told you to clean up your room and you didn't do it. I did it, but my little sister, she came back and messed it up. It's not that. It's not the responsibility to clean up your room or turning on the lights. It's the responsibility of being intelligent. Now, the specific reason, one sketch of it, one description of the reason that men everywhere, it is a common genetic generality that they attempt to and darn near succeed constantly to insulate themselves from the responsibility of being intelligent. is that there is a kind of sense, it's part of the genetic generalities in humanity, a sense that people individually are not as intelligent as they could be or as they might be. That is why there has arisen this notion, and the word to go along with it, of rationalization. Because that's all it is. It's not a plea for understanding. It's not a plea of don't hold me responsible for not turning on the lights or not cleaning my room. It's a plea, it's humans almost talking to that base genetic pool of saying, I don't know why, but I know I don't have to be this dumb, do I? And rather than have to deal with that, which at the ordinary level there is no way to deal with it. So rather than do that, you insulate yourself from the responsibility, and therefore anything that happens that there seems to be the finger of accusation pointed at you, whether it's from outside apparently, or from whether it's your own self apparently accusing you, there's always the insulation. So wait, the lights are on a timer. Everything's on a timer. Everybody's room is messed up by your sister, your brother, gremlins, evil spirits. But all forms of rationalization, all forms of excuses are not about what they seem to be about. They're not about your room. They're not about the timer. The responsibility is that there is a sensation in the genetic code of everybody. It comes out in different forms, but one of the common forms is what's called rationalization. People excusing themselves that I'm not at fault. I cannot be held responsible. But they are not actually responding to the accusation that you weren't responsible for turning on the lights or cleaning your room. The responsibility that they're attempting to insulate themselves from is this feeling that nobody can deal with at the ordinary level. There's nowhere to go with it, that you either could or might be more intelligent than you are. It is tricky. It's very tricky verbally, because even though I stand here and say for 4 or 5 times I'm not speaking about rationalization in the ordinary sense, you can listen. I even listen with one ear, continuing as you should hope I do, to monitor and know what I'm talking about. Even I listen, and verbally it comes out, and even I think, wait, hell, I am talking about rationalization. I got to change it. I mean, I know I'm not, but I'll listen to what the words, and I think, hell, I am talking about that. But it's not. That's why it's tricky. It is not the attempted verbal act of extricating oneself from an attack. It's not somebody saying, all right, the lights were on a timer. I didn't set the timer. I didn't put them there. I'm aware of it. But I didn't set the time. If the lights are not on, it's not my fault. That's not what's happening when I said, why the hell aren't the lights on? And I said to the people standing out front, right there under the lights, and it's dark. It's darker than it should be. And now they stand, I said, why aren't the lights on? And then suddenly, if I was drawing a cartoon, it's almost as like their little head then sort of lit up like, I'm thinking, I'm having a thought. And they went, wow. They should be on, shouldn't it? Because, hell, it's dark. It's dark enough the light should be on. Of course, I could go, let's get past the obvious. I'm asking you, here you stand. I didn't pick out just strangers, a handful of people. I picked out several people that I would normally think had some, what do you call it? Oh, you know that. Intelligence, I knew. That they might notice such as that. But immediately they had to insulate themselves, and not just from an attack from me. Now that's the way it can seem, because to rationalize always requires that there is apparently some foe, some other force, whereas you don't have to rationalize. You don't have to excuse. But that is not what is literally going on. That is not what is going on beyond the literal level, at the genetic level. They are excusing themselves. They're trying to buffer themselves from the responsibility of actually being fucking intelligent. That's all they're saying is God, am I dumb? That's it. That's the beginning. That's the end of it. That is all rationalization. That's every excuse that anybody's ever made. That's every prayer that anybody's ever sent up. That's every plea for justice. Fair play, the American way. Give me a break. Could you help me out, Chief? All of that's one thing. It's attempting to insulate yourself from the fact that, God, I got to be smarter than that. It's got to be possible. And of course, then call it all sorts of things. I've got to be able to, I don't know, get in touch with cosmic consciousness. I've got to become part of the great universal mind field, or mind. It's my own little joke. So you thought I said M-I-N-D. Never mind. Don't back up for them. Or to believe that I'm trying to be wide awake. I'm trying to be mystically alive. You say anything you want to, you know what you're doing? You're crying out as, God, I can't be this dumb. Or conversely, I don't really like that way. It's my stage manner, I guess. The real cry is for more intelligence, for me. Why can't I be smarter? And of course, there is the possibility of people who wouldn't even have the ability to feel and to say, why can't I be smarter? Because if you're absolutely el stupido, if you are really dumb, remember, you can't describe to a dumb person how dumb they are. I don't mean just you, they can't. If you're dumb enough, you don't know it. You're all right. You're always in the running. There's always an open stall there. They're going to scratch a horse in every race, and you're always standing by if you're that dumb and you don't know it. But sort of the middle class of life, and especially people like you that believe you're crying out for all sorts of extraordinary, transcendental gifts, abilities, you're actually saying, why can't I be more intelligent? One way to immediately deal with it, of course, is to be more intelligent, but I don't want to insult your intelligence by being so simplistic, so let's go into something a bit more a bit more complicated. Be sure and get pseudo off the tape so that they don't hear that. Let's go into more real complicated matters. One way that you could attempt to be more intelligent is to see. It's not just a verbal game, because call it a verbal game if you want to, but a verbal game is a genetic game. You didn't make it up. But to see that you continually, everybody does through speech that is being represented, you can start there to see that you're continually attempting to insulate yourself from responsibility. Not the responsibility simply of the acts apparently involved, of cleaning up your room or not turning the lights, but the responsibility that you should be more fucking intelligent. If you're going to continue to attempt and succeed, because all attempts succeed in the city, if you're going to attempt to insulate yourself from the responsibility of being more intelligent, then what's going to happen? Even at the 3D level, you should see that. You're not going to get more intelligent. You stay in the same place. You can believe you're running. I guess real stupid rear tires can believe that they're getting somewhere when they're sitting there spinning on ice, or they're stuck in the mud. As long as you gun the engine, they'll keep turning. God knows the level of intelligence of tires. I don't like to think about it, having some knowledge of the level of intelligence of some of you people, some of the people in life, so I don't like to think about tires, but it's well within reason. If little tires had thinking molecules, they can believe that they're going somewhere. To continue to insulate yourself from the responsibility of actually being more intelligent, insofar as you could be or you might be able to attempt to insulate yourself from that responsibility is to go nowhere, because you will continue to insulate yourself, re-insulate yourself, or as they would call it in the city, you will continue to excuse yourself. You will continue to rationalize, as they would say, everything that you do, which is not the case. That's not the proper description. That's not the proper way to look at it, of it being rationalization or excusing. It is the continuing attempt to insulate oneself from that horrendous possibility that I might be able to be more intelligent. Me! I didn't say be more learned. I said be more intelligent. Not better educated, more intelligent, which requires what? God, I had it there for a second. It requires that you, starts with a T. Think more. That's it. That you think more. That you think better. That you think more often. That you think in other directions all at once. That you think things you never thought before. That you think 2 or 3 things at the same time. Just ridiculous stuff like that you might be able to stand in front of a building and carry on conversation with somebody and walk around and not step into traffic and see a good-looking girl go by, and at the same time be aware of the fact that the light should be on here. That kind of weird stuff. Yeah, but that's not mystical. What's that got to do with having a wet dream about Buddha? Believing that I'm hearing translated voices from the recently departed priest of Atlantis. Right. There's one proof, if anybody needs it, of any of your beliefs. Can you think of them seriously in what seems to you to be a suitable and seemly fashion? Can you think about them and at the same time be aware that the light should be on? And if you're aware of it, you should do something. It's still not, we're talking about just the responsibility of the act, but to know it. I should have made up this part because this is a further step. Let me make up this part. One part I left out when I said, why aren't the lights on? And several people said they're on timers. Does anybody know what I was going to say was a further step with it even? Oh. I didn't want to say it, but one person is then I stormed in the building or like I was somebody take care of it. And one person, now this would be if it was rationalization, here's rationalization taken to a Neiman Marcus level. As one person says, you know, I noticed that. In other words, somebody said, oh, well, yeah, I thought of that. People do that. But it is an attempted additional level. They're attempting to kind of move themselves up, that is, even more insulation. That, wait a minute, I'm not dumb enough to just be separated from the responsibility by one layer of insulation. Because, hey, I didn't stand there completely oblivious to the fact. I thought about it. And so to them, they're doubly safe. But you see, that's doubly dumb. You thought about it and still didn't do anything. No, that's not what I meant to. That isn't what I tried to accomplish by telling you that. I know. Turn the tape. 1 iota, 1 minute. Nobody's job. Oh, I don't have to rationalize it. May Larry bless you abundantly. Not with children unless you want them. Not unless you ask specifically. Not of me, but of Larry. Ready? Back rolling? Another thing in this area. Could you see this? That one's ordinary sense of self is the ultimate insulation because it stops everybody from thinking. Well, I know you think you think. It stops everybody. Let me rephrase it then. Let me expand it. It stops everybody from attempting to be smarter than they are. That is their sense of self. To accept, no matter how warty, how overweight, how underweight, how fat, thin, skinny, no matter what you seem to be, to take that as being you. Forget whether you say, well, I don't like it. Don't bore me with that damn childish stuff. To take that as being you, and to take that thing, everything that it thinks, as being what you think, there is the supreme city insulation. Because now you're covered. Like you're supposed to be. For the rest of your life. You have an insulation. Now, city level, it could appear to be a cynic in the city could say, well, wait, rationalization. I keep saying it's not, because I want to try and drag your mind to where you begin to see how these sorts of things take on in the 3D topology, that which is just a flawed reflection of something else that you can begin to grasp. As long as you take you as being you, people can accuse you of anything. And you always are insulated. That is, you can always say, hey, they're on a timer. Sis did it. Except you say something else. But it's always the same thing. As long as you take you as being you, you have got the ultimate insulation between any responsibility of being anything else. Because the thing you are can very often agree to any attack. Well, yeah, you're right. But I'm going to change. I'm going to change. Hey, let's talk about change. I love to talk about change. Next to dogs, I love to talk about change and personal growth. What do you have to say? Well, first off, I want you to know I'm in favor of it. Next to dogs, I love the attempt to better myself. And they give you 2 hours of how they try to better themselves. And they say, well, enough about me. What do you think of what I just said? There you are. It is the ultimate insulation. You are not required once you take you to be you. Which everybody has to. You had to take you to be you or you're nuts. I mean, you're really nuts. You wouldn't even be here. Everybody has to at one time take themselves as being them. But if you stay there, you'll never be intelligent. Well, if you call what you are now intelligent, okay, you'll be that intelligent. But I'm telling you that's not intelligent. And I've been trying to hint around. You were hinting, weren't you? I thought I was sort of hinting around. That all of these great bombastic descriptions of higher states of consciousness and etc. can actually be whittled down, if you're among people who understood anything, it can be whittled down to much more simplistic terms, everyday, just almost go right through your head terms that nobody notices. But you at one time had to take you as being you. But you took you as being you also, in part, as a you that's guilty, unworthy, lacking, etc., that you're open to life taking guilt shots at you. That, yeah, you're right. But that is part of it. But to say I'm trying to improve myself, I'm trying to overcome this, is a lie. A 4D lie. You've got to see that it's simply not true, it's misnamed. I'm not trying to do this. I think about it, if I'm going to call this thinking, over and over and over and over and over. It's like over and over and over and over. Every time anybody accuses me of anything, I say, hey, it's on a timer. No matter what it is. Why wasn't you in church this week? Hey, it's on a timer. How come you beat your wife up? Hey, it's on a timer. Why don't you do better? I don't know. I guess I'm just on a timer. And that's it. As long as you continue to say, I am at the center of it. As long as you do that, you have got the ultimate insulation. As long as you stay at that basis. It's not to give anybody the blues, because I've told you all this kind of stuff before. But you're not going to get any smarter. You're not going to get any better. You're not going to get anything. You're going to stay just like you are. Oh, I might fool around and some way indirectly cause you to lose weight or put on weight or to quit drinking or to quit smoking or you may think your temper's calmed down. You may think all kinds of stuff. But you're not going to be any more intelligent than you were when you started this. You're not. You may have memorized, you may even be thinking using some of the terms I've used and think, well, hey, this is meaningful, this is heavy stuff. But if you stay at that level, if you had the ability back to that level to be intelligent, then I'd say, all right, look at it. And you turn around and look at it, and you realize, all right, I use some of your terms, and I write them down, and I think about them. And I'd say, are you any smarter than you were when you started this? And the answer is, no. Yeah, but I know this stuff. No, you don't know it. You know the words. You might be able to parrot some of me, sound like, do some cheap imitation of me talking maybe. But are you any smarter? Do you think any better? Do you think any more? Do you think in any more complex patterns? Do you know any more than you actually did? Now don't tell me you know my words now, but do you actually know any more? The answer is no. But you're insulated. I can't get through and hurt you in some way. I can't harpoon you and really make you feel bad. I can't cause any new guilt in you. All I can do is apparently irritate you and you feel some of your old guilt. It just seems like it's a new way to be irritated. It's the same old guilt. And the guilt is, why am I so dumb? I just know I could be less dumb than this. I just know I could. I just know I could. If I just wasn't on that timer. I mentioned machines, the timer being just this prime example that popped up the other night. This is much more complex than I'm going to try to go into, except to tell you that it's way beyond metaphor. It's around the bend from metaphor. 4D metonymy. I was going to pull in computers. Notice, there are traces of this, I might add, 3,500 years ago, even before electricity and IBM. But men have always had a fascination with technology and specifically machinery, and now it has blossomed into this kind of philosophical, and in some cases men are taking it very seriously, certain parts of life's body taking it very seriously, the possibility that somehow machines, thinking machines, might begin to usurp some of the workings of the human brain itself. Pardon me while I... The human brain itself can't even usurp the workings of the human brain. But I told you it's going to get a little subtle. If some of you don't see where it's going, I'll drop it. Men have dreamed, and they continue to love to, I just call it dream until I see whether any of you are being drugged with this, of machines. Now it's computers. Is the physical manifestation of it. As being able, it's a combination of dream and fear, love and fear, of there being machines in some way, in this case I was saying computers, that in some way will be able, apparently, to undertake and replace some of the actual human labors. But, even people at IBM would go along with that, but here is the good part of the love and the fear. It's not only that they might be able to replace some of the actual human labor, but that they might be able to accept some of man's responsibility. That is the love-hate being expressed now of people discussing the possibility that, yes, we're going to, as we get into more and more supercomputers, and as these people are actually up there working at reputable places like MIT on artificial intelligence, and how they have whole departments or sub-departments working on this. Night and day, I might add. We can very soon, said he, expect, if not some major breakthroughs, some major promises coming up. I keep thinking I'm going to come with an excursion. For some of you that actually begin to be intelligent, you can do it on your own. You don't have to tell me. But of these major, forget Hitler. They keep talking about him. They translated whoever accused him of being, I think he supposedly said that if you're going to fool the people, give them a big lie. And they got all carried over from World War II, the big lie. Well, that stuff was nothing. Because, of course, he was just playing out a small role. But if some of you could see the big lies, that is, things going on in life that there's a widespread, if the manifestation is not common to everybody, it's still arising from the common genetic generalities of people expressing a great feel about something. That a whole large segments of life's body take something as being true and serious when it's no such thing. Nobody can see it except one or two people. But one of them is that machines, this is accepted. There are debates about it. There are debates and arguments going on in print, in serious magazines, periodicals, now similar to what they were doing with atomic energy, of scientists that helped develop the theories of atomic energy. Very shortly after they realized the government might start exercising and using some of their ideas, begin to say, wait, we should not unleash this. Using the great way they have words, I think some of them said, this is one Pandora's box we should not open. There are people now saying, wait, we should not push the investigation, the research into trying to develop real artificial intelligence that might begin to ape, if not surpass man, because we could be opening a dangerous door. Now, people are taking that serious. I'm talking about people with 2 or 3 PhDs, people that have an IQ, I'm sure, that registers way up. Of course, I would hate to find out that some of you are so dumb if I gave the excursion about pick out some of these going on in life that if you ever thought that humanity was intelligent as they could be, then here's an example that says otherwise, that proves otherwise, that large numbers of very educated people say there is. It's just a matter of time that we're going to develop machines, artificial intelligence is what they call it now, AI, that will actually be able to function just about the same as a brain, as a human mind. There are people who believe that. Now, of course, I'm not going to stand here and make you people raise your hands because some of you will laugh along because you figure I'm saying, well, that's not possible. When I've said it before in another way, but it's not possible. And it is so blatant, if you had any ability to think, that it's almost, it qualifies for being almost all blatant. But of course in the city it's not. It's like them wondering, still, after 3,500 years, is what's going on here, is it a matter of genetics or environment? That there are people around with reputations, including you. Not that you got a reputation, but people that pass for being intelligent that think that is a sticky problem. And the intelligent ones even say now that, well, it's a matter, I think we've been wrong several decades back. It's not one or the other. And they look very intelligent and stroke their beard and say, we believe it's a little of both. That's like saying something's a little true and not true. God, they're close and don't know it again. At any rate, the idea of artificial intelligence, that there is going to be a machine that can operate like the human brain, the human mind, and perhaps we shouldn't do this. Because what if they begin to get, I'm sure they probably don't like to use this term, but I've read enough that they are saying this. I know what's behind it. I know what life is feeling through them, that they might even get smarter than those that built the machine, those now programming it. And of course, I don't keep up with science fiction, but I have no doubt, I can guarantee you, without knowing, that there's got to be copious stories of that happening in science fiction by now. And it is blatantly impossible. I'm not here to prove a point about machines or science fiction or artificial intelligence. I'm trying to show you that humans are stupid. Not because I say so. They're stupid on the basis that life is put out the general field. It's already wired into people. Wired in, not from the environment. Wired in that we are at a certain level of intelligence. And they are not. You are not. The very definition, what should be, of being intelligent, people are not. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to be as intelligent as you could be, as you might be. That's what this is about. You can forget all those dreams about metaphysics or whatever you think I'm hiding. Oh, you don't have to forget them, because if you forget them, then I would have to remind you. I'd have to go ahead and buy a turban, I guess, if we went that far. The machines, though, represent artificial intelligence. The theories, the dreams, the fears thereof represents, in a sense, a kind of ultimate insulation. But there are traces of this, if I was going to say it's not a history lesson, 3,500 years ago, before electricity, before vacuum tubes and transistors and all that. But still, the idea that there would be something mechanical that we could come up with that would insulate me entirely from the responsibility of having to be intelligent. And machines have always represented in a peculiar way, and now it's beginning to show real fruition here with the computers and the attempts at AI. It is now reaching full fruition. The timer, remember my little example, that's a form of a thinking machine. It's like an off and on crudeness. It's like a form of a thermostat, but in a sense it thinks. Somebody sets it up, and when it gets to be 7 o'clock, it'll turn on the lights, which is a lot better. It's more dependable than a whole bunch of you people, and you know it. So you can say, well, a timer, the 398 timer from Radio Shack, certainly not in a class with some crazy supercomputer up in Chicago. Oh yeah? Well, hell, you're not in the class with a damn 395 timer, because at least it works every day. It remembers every day at 7 o'clock. And I depend on that, as you should, more than any of you individually. I'd always depend on the timer if it's important. But there is this feeling, as kind of that the machines can take over in a way that would mechanically, which really represents something that is still more subtle that I'm going into tonight, but I'm stressing, is a kind of mechanical, a kind of non-thinking, a kind of non-human insulation between me and my responsibility to be more intelligent. Think about what I just said. Nobody else can. That a machine is going to, a mechanical machine that I can put together or go buy, is going to insulate me. I'm so smart that I can go buy this machine that'll insulate me from being as dumb as I am. I was hoping a few of you would get that. It's just one of the ways that life will let some things slip out. There's also built in, when I said love and fear, there has been a fear. And I was expressing here that there are people now that are saying that the computer sciences should not even be struggling with the attempt to create artificial intelligence. That there is a real fear. And I'm not talking about some right-wing crackpot group that worm their way into MIT. It is non-political, non-religious types in the field that say we shouldn't do this. And of course them saying we shouldn't do that, the inference, that part of life coming through them believes that it's possible. Because if it's not possible, who cares whether they should be doing it or not? There's none to fear. But there is a fear in parts of life's body that this is possible. Not that the machine will ever think. That's what they call it. But that they might stop people. That life in some way might stop itself, and some group of itself, that is people, from attempting to actually begin to think at their time and place, to think, to be as intelligent as they might be. Some of you should hear that. Back to my example. Why aren't the lights on, the timer? I'm not supposed to have to think about it. That's what we got the timer for. I saw so-and-so put it in. I was with him the day we picked up Radio Shack and he put it in. I didn't set it up. I'm not an electrician. I didn't do the timing. But I was relieved of some responsibility. They think, if they were ordinary, they think I was relieved of responsibility now of me having to turn it on. That's not what they're saying. It's another area in which I don't have to think. That's what we got timers for. I got better things to do. I can't be over here every night or the nights I am here. I don't be staying around watching a watch or having to ask people what time it is and make sure it's not dark. Jesus Christ, I got better things to do than that. Of course, you understood what I meant. I got better things to think about than is it 7 o'clock and I turn it on now. Yes, I have much more important things to think about. And I woke up, such as the timer. It ain't my fault the lights are not on. The timer. Let me tell you, I'll give you maybe we'll go into this some other night. But regardless of your loves and fears, that is at the common genetic level, there is no substitute for humans. And these manifestations, these apparent attempts to use machines, for an example, as insulation, that is an attempt to replace humans. That, oh dears, is a law. And men have always, not through stupidity, life knows what it's doing, men have always believed, without expressing it this way, because nobody's ever said this and nobody's ever said the anti-this. But men are operating in such a way that they believe that this is not true. That a timer, well, for instance, to show you how dumb I am, how ill-founded are some of my ideas, in this one example, this one little area, a timer is a substitute for a human, right? Well, it is. If we want a thing to turn the lights, if we want the lights on at 7:30, all right, we can either get a human, pay them, beat them, chain them here, and then you don't know, they could pass out, take a nap, or else buy a machine, that is a substitute for a human, and have the timer do it, right? It shows, how crazy I am at times. Do I have to still treat everybody dumb enough to point out? Who built the fucking timer? Now, it seems obvious, but it's not obvious. There is a 3D circular form of non-thinking that passes for thinking that ordinary intelligence does not see that. And it will not even accept it, just because I point that out. If this was ordinary people, they'd say, wait a minute. Now, you're off on the wrong track. That's not the point. There are things that substitute for humans. And beyond anything that they would ever verbalize or have ever verbalized out in their city throughout history, they continue to operate as though there are substitutes for humans. Now, let's make it more interesting if we can. Let's leave timers and computers. Humanity has been attempting to substitute for humans throughout history, long before electricity, as I said, through such things as religion, political ideas, economic theories. That's an attempt to buffer oneself from having to think, from having to be as intelligent as you could or might be able to be. And it's an attempt to substitute for humans. And there is no substitute for humans. That, at one level, people are not aware of it, but life, in some ways, aware of it. But that is one reason that some people have such animosity, such passionate resistance to fanatics. Now, I'm just talking about the ordinary level back in the city. Large groups of people will stand up and they'll denounce any group of fanatics. Right-wing, left-wing, Christian, Jew, Muslim, because a large part of life's body finds that to be very unseemly, dangerous. Why? Because it strikes them that they're almost, in their fanaticism about their cause, which their cause, you could say, a PC, a timer. But now it seems as though we're not talking about material matters. That their cause, their belief, has almost substituted for them being human. That they are a walking ideal. They are a walking piece of insanity. Whatever it is. That everything that they talk about revolves around the Catholic Church, everything that they talk about revolves around a real conservative political philosophy. That everything they say sounds as though a tape recorder is running. Not uncommon, but it's also not uncommon that there's a large group of people, and they don't know why. They take it seriously because of life's own particular common genetic generalities makes another group get up and say, that's dangerous. It's not just the philosophy that's dangerous that they're espousing. It's that kind of attitude. Look at them. They may not be taking dope. They may not be smoking pot anymore, but look at that look in their eyes. They quit snorting cocaine, and now they're talking about Jesus, but they got that same damn look, and I don't like it. And they don't know why. They just know that something is wrong. They feel that something is wrong with fanatics because it's getting close. That some theory, some belief is getting dangerously close to substituting for them being human. That is almost substituting for them getting up to the ordinary, as low as it may be, level of thinking. Like some of the excuses or some of the attacks are verbalized as, well, I hate a fanatic, or I hate what my son's turned into, or an old friend of mine's now a Hare Krishna or somebody, because they used to be so intelligent. And now all they do is espouse and repeat that philosophy, or 2 or 3 sentences. It's almost as though they have lost the ability to think for themselves. Which, of course, in most cases is no big loss. But there is one final thing I'll say. You should remember this, whether I get back to it verbally or not in this lifetime. But this is an important fact. This is not some theory, and this is not metaphorical. And it's not just simply obvious, because at the ordinary level of intelligence, everybody, there is a common genetic generality that makes people operate and to think in such a way, not using these words, but think in such a way that this is not true, that there are exceptions to this. God, for one, there's got to be an exception to this, right? No. A belief in God, then? No. Love? No. Family love? No. Real close family love? No. Not a timer? No. The Tandy Corporation headquarters? No. The people who invented, the people who designed the timer? No, no, no. All religion, all philosophy, all theories, all ideas are walking low-level denials of that fact. If you believe in anything, you're attempting to deny that. And you can't deny it. Well, you can, but if you're going to do this, you can't do it with impunity. It'll keep you right where you are. Nothing. Nothing I've said, nothing I'll ever say. If you take it as being a substitute for being human, you're just stuck. There is no substitute for humans. And humans cannot make a substitute for themselves. Some of you laughed when I pointed out that they'll never make a machine as smart as man. The human brain will never make something as smart as it is. And some of you went, oh, ha, ha, now that you say it, yeah. It's not just machinery. People have attempted to do it as long as you've had people that could think, doing it with what? G-O-D. It's the same thing. They have conjured up something that they believe is more intelligent than they are. And they can't see the obviousness. Pick up any vademecum of any religion and look at their God. Look at the Old Testament, since that's the background of most of you people in one way or the other, and look at that. To call it a religious book, you have got to be. Life had to take you down like a chicken when you were little and it did this, and now you just walk around. To believe that the Old Testament is some kind of religious book is blood and guts. If it came out in some paperback version in most of the southern states, it'd be banned. And I don't mean just the operations, the recounts of the people, they're so-called God. If that was a God, he was a mean motherfucker. And dumb, ornery, one way. The point being, human intelligence cannot picture a God that's any better than they are. Now some of you are at ordinary level. If I was talking in the city, people jump and say, wrong, wrong. Well, now you've done it. You're absolutely dumb, because our religion pictures God. We say He's omnipotent. We say He's all-caring. We say He's all-knowing. And that's all right. You know, can you picture Him? Can you think about that? Can you do that? Can you even feel that? And if I could suddenly make them get in touch with something beyond the common genetic generalities, they'd go, oh my God. And I'd say, well, why? The history of your God, why is it that He's continually breaking promises, killing people, threatening people, forgetting what He did, making people worship Him, making people be afraid of Him? It's not an attack on God, as you people know. I'm pointing out to you that there is no substitute for humans. There are none. There is nothing. You can look through microscopes, you can look through telescopes, you can look as far as the horizons of ordinary your intelligence will go, and there is nothing. And that's part of the proof of how dumb you are, that you continue to believe that there is a substitute. If not, artificial intelligence is manifested by some great computer, that if we just had the money, in a few more years we'll do it. You had 35 years to come up with God, He would have been the supercomputer. He would have been the super-duper computer. And He would have been a substitute for humans, which is another way of saying what? Being a substitute for your responsibility, which is another way of saying what? It'd been a substitute that is an insulation for me having to actually be as intelligent as I could or might be able to be. See, was that so hard? I know it was. Well, everybody, you go lay down, get warm and get comfortable and take a nap. You'll be all right.